everyone. Getting ready for today's workshop on time, or watch the webinar on time. So I hope that you all show up for this webinar. I know it's a really specific topic, working with children and the seven principles of conscious programming, or I should say conscious parenting. I say conscious programming well, anyway, conscious parenting. And I think it's a good topic to get started, or to have right before we get the new year started for school. So here we go. All right. So do let me know if you can hear me, and that always helps. So I will look forward to hearing from you. And hopefully all is well. All right. So if you can hear me, just let me know. Some of you are coming on and joining this broadcast. Happy to be here for you. So if you can hear me, let me know. Okay, we'll be getting started in about maybe 3 minutes or so. Just getting all my things together, my materials together. And let me see. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just let me know if you can hear me. Okay. So if any one of you will let me know that the sound is okay, we can get started really soon. Next few minutes. Thank you for coming on for today. I'm looking forward to this hangout with you guys. I always look forward to them. I think it's one of my highlights of the month. Every time we do the webinars and the workshops, it's just, for me, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot. It's a really great way for me to connect with you all, and maybe not fully in person, but at least it's a kind of a live connection, and then be able to offer some discussions and on how to apply the Silva lifestyle in a much better way, or in an effective way that can seem really practical and really make a difference in your life. So I'm really happy that you're here. And this is one of my favorite topics as well. So I think we're right around time. No mistaking there. So if you can hear me, let me know. Oops. There. Well, welcome everyone. I have about maybe just now, according to my computer, it has now turned to 11 o'clock. And so I just want to say thank you for coming and thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. It's a great pleasure to be here, for you and with you. And again, if you can't hear me or something's going on with the video or audio, please let me know, because that way I can work on something on the side. And being summertime, so many of our help and our group is traveling, and they're enjoying the last bit of the summertime before school actually starts. And so I'm doing a lot of things I don't usually do by myself. So yay. Okay. Just wanted to let you know. So if there's anything that needs to be improved on, or sound quality, visual quality, or anything like that, do let me know. So I hope everyone can hear me, because no one's saying that you can't. All right, good. So today we're going to be talking about, I guess, a topic that's always been really close to me, because I started working with children in Silva way back when I was about 19 years old. Now, you're talking about a long time ago. It's about 44 years ago. The idea back then, or the belief was in this, the organization itself, run by the original group of Silvas, my father and his brother Juan, who helped him. And of course, we had Harry McKnight and Dr. Hahn, and there's a wonderful Dr. George Sassau, wonderful team of people. And I was young. I was just coming in to wanting to present seminars. And my best advice from the team of elders was start working with children, because it's a lot easier to work with children. They're not as demanding, or they're not as maybe critical of your work as a newcomer. And I thought, well, okay, that makes kind of sense, I suppose. And so I thought, fine. So I trained to become a Silva instructor and started to present children's programs, like we used to call them, the youth lecture series. And they were quite popular way back when. They were not the easiest courses to put together, because all parents, who were Silva graduates, wanted their children to participate in a Silva course. But of course, the children can't drive themselves. The children don't pay for the class. The children don't make the decisions. So when the courses would be scheduled and we were waiting for the children to show up and register, a lot of times there was a lot of promises, but no show. And so it was not always the easiest group to get together. Although there always seemed to be a lot of demand for it, there was not always that follow through. So I think the children's programs, although we do them still, like summer times or little summer camps, or we do special kind of gatherings, they don't happen as frequently as I wish they would happen. I think, my father always believed that it was really up to the parents to teach their children how to use their mind in a special manner, and that the education of that had to start at a very young age. The ideal age that we used to take our children in for classroom settings was about maybe between 7 and 8 years old, sometimes 6 to 8, because they were ideal, their brain frequency wise. I mean, they were functioning ideally for learning. It's said scientifically, it's said that children upon birth and even before birth are emitting a predominance of delta brainwave frequencies. Of course, delta is a very, very slow frequency of the brain, and it's you would see that in children who are just born. They sleep a lot. They're just building still. I mean, the brain is still evolving. The brain continues to evolve for many years after birth, and so the very first frequency that's very predominant in babies is going to be delta. The next one that comes in more like around 4, 5, or maybe 3 to 4 years old is going to be that of theta. So the predominant brain frequency of a child between the ages of maybe 3 to 4 to 5, up till about maybe the age of 7, is going to be theta. So for the first years of their lives, the very formative years up to about the age of 7 or so, a child's brain frequency is very slow and in a passive mode. It's either delta going into theta. And theta is also a very programmable, I mean, all frequencies are very programmable frequencies, but up to about the age of 7, when the brain frequency shifts into alpha as a predominant brain frequency, not the only brain frequency, obviously, but as a predominant brain frequency, then the child has more ability to question, retain information, to use creative abilities that they have. It's a very dynamic inner state. It's a great learning frequency, and so a child can really participate, follow instructions, and incorporate the concepts, the tools, and the formula type techniques that we present in the lecture series more effectively and more, I guess, successfully after the age of 7. But before the age of 7, that's when most of the learning and programming is going to occur in your children. And really, most of the time, that's when the parent has the greatest influence on their children. Children learn everything from their parents. And my father used to always, wished and hoped, he always wanted for parents to learn these Silva skills and tools and then go and teach them to their children. So today's webinar it's basically the 7 principles of conscious parenting. I think it's next week around the 21st or 28th or 29th, before I take off to Venice. We're doing an actual workshop, and that's about empowering your children more with the Silva tools and techniques that we have for learning and meditation and things like that, where I will teach you, the parent, how to, or the caretaker or the teacher or the tutor, whoever you are in a child's life, but I'll teach you how to deliver these tools to children in a very practical and natural way. But that's going to be for the workshop. There'll be 2 days for 3 hours each. We'll talk about that one later. But today's 7 principles of conscious parenting has a lot more to do with how do we behave ourselves, in front of children, while we're with children, in order to help them to get the tools that they need to be able to empower the children, yes, but help them to thrive through life. I think my father's main goal for his own children, there was 10 of us, was what do I need to do to help my children learn better, be successful in life, have that confidence and thrive, be happy and thrive. That was probably the most important thing for him, having so many children, was how can I use these tools to help my children, have it all, eventually have it all, and thrive for the rest of their life. And so that's, I believe, a lot has to do with conscious parenting. You'll find a lot of information on conscious parenting anywhere on the website. And I'm always looking around, and I'm always looking for things to share with you as well. And I did. So I found some things that I would like to share with you for this workshop. And it's going to be probably a lot of information to start with, but I also think that it's going to be information that we could format or maybe transcribe and offer you afterwards as a PDF, of what we talk about today, so that you can have something more tangible in your hands when we give you the replay tomorrow. I believe we usually take about a day to give you the replay, and also with this replay, you'll get a transcription of this presentation as well. To the best of our ability, we'll do our best to give you information that you can use, study a little bit, and be able to apply it in life. And it takes practice. I mean, let's face it, none of us were born with a handbook as to how to parent, how to do proper parenting. It's a trial and error basis most of the time. And no baby was born with a handbook under their armpit, as well as to how to teach them personally what they need, because we all know that every single child is so unique, so different. But I would say a good relationship with children and good opportunities that we can offer our children, in spite of the kind of character, personality that they bring with them upon birth as part of their inherent nature, is for us to be the best we know how to be. And so I think conscious parenting has a lot to do with empowering children with what they need from a holistic perspective, so that they can develop and thrive. So we're looking at it from a spirit, mind, body, and of course, emotional perspective, so that they can have the tools that they need to grow and thrive through life. And conscious parenting typically engages and connects with children using a more of a thoughtful, positive discipline rather than punishment. And when I say a thoughtful kind of a discipline, that means you really sometimes have to pause and you need to think before you act. And if you've been following me for quite some time, so many of you have, that it's so much more important to be more responsible than reactive. So a lot of times, although sometimes our children will try us and test us through time, and that's an ongoing thing that happens all the time. Being a mother of 3 children, they're all adults, which is kind of good. It never stops. You always need to stop and think and then respond thoughtfully. because I think it's more important that we were able to give them guidance and show them a way, give them maybe several options that they can then on their own choose what feels best to them. I always remember my father talking about how his children were not his children. He says, they're not mine. I don't own them. He says, but I'm here to guide them, to mentor them, to teach them. I've made myself responsible for bringing, these wonderful beings into this planet, into this life form. And as the bearer, he and my mom of these children, we have that responsibility. But they're not mine. They need to do what they came here to do. They are not here to do what I meant for them to do. And you think, I look at my family and I think, God, there's 10 of us. And over there were, some have passed on. But there was 10 of us, and we were all so different and with so many different interests. I truly believe that I did choose to come to this family to do this work that I'm doing, because of 10 children, I'm the only one that really has pursued this line of work. I love this line of work. I love what I do, and I feel this is what I came to do, to continue this kind of work, and it's very important for me. But I think as parents, we really do need to look at what's our role here. How do we fulfill that role most effectively? How do we incorporate our Silva tools and skills in order to be able to make it a lifestyle, and without even having to call it Silva, there's certain things that we want to do and be very conscious of. We've always talked about in Silva about having that conscious awareness, of being very mindful as to what's going on, not only within you, but outside of you. And if you have children, or if you're caring for children, or you're working with children, then obviously, these are probably our most precious resources. They are our future. They are the world's future, and we need to really honor that and work with children in a way that's very mindful and conscious as well. Conscious parenting is authentic. It's an authentic, congruent expression of both what you need and your child needs as well. And you're going to be doing that through honesty, sincerity, confidence, being sensitive or sensitivity, empathy, compassion, humility. There's all kinds of ways that you do it, but we need to be very mindful. We need to pause in order to respond and not react instead. So one of the first things that I think is, as a principle, is to be the example. I remember when I was, my children were very young, and I would be meditating. My children would often come into my room and say, "Mommy, what are you doing?" And I would just tell them, I'm meditating. Come on, come over here, come with me. Our first son is a little older than the second and the third, but the second and the third, Iliana and Sarali, they're like a year and 5 months apart. So they were really close to each other. And so when they would come in, together most of the time, where they'd be around me as I would do my meditations, and they would kind of snuggle, just kind of cuddle up, on either side of me, and then eventually close their eyes, and then they would enter their nap time. As I would do my meditation, they would start off, imitating me, mimicking me, but then they would drift off into a nap. And I think when you're the example, it's going to be really, really important that you get it as right as you can, to the best of your ability, being a conscious, mindful, aware individual. So conscious parenting is going to involve you being the example. What kind of example do you want to be for your children? Because children are great imitators. They're constantly imitating. So you need to give them something great to imitate, such as, great morals, great values, the great language that you speak, your great behaviors. All of these qualities lead to character. Aristotle used to say that the best way to teach character is by modeling good example. And the children are constantly modeling us. That old saying that says, what's it called, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I used to have a friend who used to always say that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because I would make commentaries to her about all my children when they were little or growing up, and she would just go, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and she'd always do this little finger motion, and every time I would say something about my children, talking, having conversations with her, she would say, oh, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It got to the point that in the moment I would say a commentary about my children, or what sounded like maybe a complaint of any kind, all she would do is do this. They would just shut me up and remind me. Well, then you've got to be a better example. If what they're doing is not a behavior that you're honoring or that you appreciate, then you need to be the better example right there. And then how do you deal with that most effectively? So again, we need to be that example. Children learn virtually everything from their parents, everything. And they're going to be spending most of their time with you in the very formative years, before birth, after birth, and once they start going to that kindergarten or preschool. I mean, you've already sent them to school when they're about maybe 3-4 years old, or I don't know what that is now. Maybe it's even younger. I mean, some of them are in daycare and all that kind of stuff. I get it. I understand that. But you're still going to be needing to make those strong impressions in positive ways to your children, because whoever gets those impressions in them first wins, basically. So if you're sending them off to a caretaker, or you're sending them off to a school, and there's not that kind of conscious handling of children, then you need to be prepared to really get to them first, teach them these good morals, values, ways to evaluate situations, ways to know what's good and bad, right, wrong, things of that nature, because they need that from you. Dr. Michelle Borba, educator, speaker, best-selling author, promotes the importance of being a good example to our children. She says, children are always watching us, and they're always copying us all the time, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So no matter what it is that you're doing, your children are watching, and they're soaking everything in. Behavior, prejudice, how you manage stress, how you cope with defeat, your organizational style, whether or not you drive safely, your drinking and eating habits, how well you make friends and or socialize, whether you write goals, don't write goals, or have a vision for your future, about everything about your values, your lifestyle habits, whether it's sleeping or exercising, watching television, whether you're nice to people and respectful and courteous, or you're not, whether or not you're punctual. They follow the religion that you hold in most cases. Your love for maybe cooking, gardening, reading, all kinds of lifestyle choices, your personal interests, whether you're a responsible and reliable person or you're not going to be responsible or reliable. And how will you handle what is now termed digital citizenship? Like when you're getting your text messages or emails, and how you respond to those things, how you're dealing with maybe Facebook or social platforms, and how you're contributing to that or responding to that. I mean, just all of these things are things that they're watching, and it seems to get a little bit more complicated through time. Your self-talk, whether you talk to yourself in a positive way, or you're always belittling or humiliating yourself, whether you're optimistic, pessimistic, how will you manage your monies and your time, whether you're a patriot or your kind of politics, your biases, whether you keep friends, on a long-term basis, how much you value education, which is kind of interesting. I might say that, but I remember, being that both my parents never really had formal education. My mom went to school to the 5th grade, and my father never went to school. He was self-taught. For them, education, formal type education, was not like of the utmost importance. Education, yes, it was very important, but they didn't believe that you had to go and get a degree in order to thrive. So I always found that interesting, because with my children, my husband and I very much insisted that they pursued their education, and that they pursued their passion, yes, but their education that would support their passion. And so for them, it was more enjoyable going to school, learning about something that they were passionate about and that they loved doing versus something they didn't want to do. So anyways, going back to that, excuse me, but children watch everything, your ability to resolve conflicts and problem solve. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Dr. Borba offers a list of values as well on some of her sites and lifestyle in her books. And lifestyle practice that can be reinforced by the things you say to children and your behaviors and in being the example to them. There's certain things that when you get into the practice, excuse me, of how you speak and you have created that pattern of speech that is very positive and very, very proactive and visionary, then you're going to discover that it becomes a pattern in you that you don't have to think about anymore. You simply just speak in the way that you're now so accustomed to doing so. And children are going to pay attention. They're going to listen to you. That's why it's so important. I always emphasize it probably way too much sometimes, that you need to think positively. Because your positive thinking is going to carry over to your beliefs, to your speech, to your behaviors. And all of these things tie in together very congruently. And that congruence has to be there all the time. So we call this mental house cleaning in the Silva method, where you're cleaning that mental house of yours of all the garbage, garbage in, garbage out. So we want to get rid of all the garbage and the words and the phrases and the nuances that we want to transmit through the words that we say, because it's really important that we are very clear about what we're saying to our children in ways that they are able to mimic us in a way that's going to be beneficial for them. According to child and teen development experts like Robin Silverman, she says that it's as important to explain also why you do what you do as it is saying and doing it, because a child hears your process. One example she gave was, let's say that you say, I made this commitment to go to a PTA meeting, but I'm really tired. I really don't want to go. So this is a real hard choice for me. But commitment is also really important for me. So because commitment is so important, I'm going to go ahead and go to the meeting. And so they begin to listen to you, thinking out, the process that you use to come to a decision. And they're looking at what are the values that are most important. How do you prioritize the things that are important? What are the values that are running the way you think and the way you live? And you can cop out, and cop out's another option, but commitment is an honorable option. And when you commit to something, you follow your word, or you're a person of your word. Commitment to tie in with integrity, being of your word, following through. I mean, it's got so many things that are attached to that. And it's a great example for your children. So there's a lot of ways that you can promote morals, values, and behaviors by what you say. For example, courtesy can be expressed by simply them often hearing you thank you, or say thank you to people when they do something, and say, I really appreciate that. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but when your children hear that of you, and it's congruent, it's a congruent way of you dealing with others, they're going to pick up on that. Many times when parents feel very stressed or they feel angry, and many times towards children, I mean, you can just simply say, excuse me, I need to walk away and get myself back in control. And then just take a pause. Just pause for a few moments, because then children will be able to see a good strategy for stress management or anger management. Or, I'm sorry, or I apologize, I lost my temper there. I'm going to count from 10 to 1 to calm myself down. I mean, that's what a great strategy, just to share with a child, because you know what? I'm losing my temper. I'm going to just pause for a while and count from 10 to 1 just to calm myself, right? And then just let them watch you do it. And then that way they have a good example as to how to work with that. Those kinds of things are a child's never too young to observe that. And the sooner they observe it, the more ingrained it becomes. The more a part of them it becomes, the more a part of their subconscious programs they become. And these subconscious programs will eventually be running their life as our subconscious programs have run our lives as well. Some have been really, really good, and others were not that good, that we've had to reprogram our subconscious. And we now, as adults, need to be responsible for that, reprogramming our subconscious, that we can give our children a big, big edge, a good hands up if we help them along the way by them seeing how we manage certain situations that everybody goes through. You can say, I'm so stressed lately, I'm going to start exercising or listening to calm music in order to help me relax. Or I'm getting upset and need to take time out. Let's talk in a few minutes when everyone's a little bit calmer. And then we'll just, you just respond to that. They observe it. It's a good strategy. Everybody's okay. No one's gotten out of control. I mean, things like that can be very, very important. Empathy and compassion. You can say things like, I'm going to call grandma and see how she's doing. She looks lonely. Or I'm going to go and check on the neighbors because I haven't seen them lately. I hope they're doing okay, or whatever it might be. Just some kind of way to show that you care for somebody else. Mrs. Jones is sad. I'm going to bake her some cookies and make her feel a bit better. You want to help me? And then have the child participate with you along the way. Or, thanks, but you don't need to give me any money when they see you doing other things. I did it because I wanted to help. And when the children start observing these things, these behaviors in you, they will mimic these behaviors. So there's all kinds of things, of values and stereotyping, things that we can say, admitting mistakes, having good manners, like, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, or I blew it, next time I'll do better, or whatever it might be. Communication, respect, and goal setting. I mean, so many things about responsibility that you can say in a certain way that will teach lessons to children, because you are the example. And example is very important. Forgiveness, safety, honor, and friendship, admitting truth, compatibility with others, all kinds of things. Optimism, attitude, that's so important. And, I think it's going to be having to come from you. So I've made a list of a lot of these things that you're going to get in that PDF that I told you about, that will help you to be more conscious of all of your behaviors, all of your words, all of your actions, all of your expressions, and really be more mindful as to what you are saying and thinking and doing, and how you're behaving, your attitudes, everything. Because if you have children, and especially if you have young children, they will learn from you, they will mimic you. And you are the best teacher in the world. Everything done with love and is always going to start off in a really high note. The second one is to be impeccable with your word. That kind of ties in with a lot of things that we do. Obviously, it ties in to being the example, but being impeccable with your word is one of the most important principles I believe in. We talked about, again, positive thinking, positive speaking, positive approaches, positive attitude, positive beliefs, positive everything. You need to really watch what you say, because that's a real expression of you within. Don Miguel Ruiz, author of the best-selling book, The Four Agreements, lists this as the first agreement, to be impeccable with your word. He says, this requires you to speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Don't take anything. The other agreements are, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So to be impeccable with your word carries a lot of weight with it. It's going to tie in also with the next principle that we're going to be talking about. But to be impeccable with your word is going to also help for you in return to be a good listener. Because as you listen, you can listen attentively, and you're able to understand what your child or the other person is needing of you or is needing for themselves. So when you are a good listener, a good observer, then you're able to respond with the right things, with the right way, with the right response. And the right response can really make a child or break a child. It can really encourage them, or it can discourage them. It can make them feel good about themselves or not. The word is powerful. And we so casually throw around words that can cause so much damage, not because we intend the damage, only because we don't know any better and we're not that aware as to what we're saying, especially in front of our children. We have to remember that our children, when they, besides them soaking in everything you say, you are also energetically making impressions on them. You're sharing your auras, your body energies. And so you're also blending in at so many levels, both objectively and subjectively. Even when it comes from love, you can hurt if you're not sure how to, or if you're not aware as to what you're saying and doing. I remember so well when my daughter Eliana was, I think, in the second grade, going on to, or the third grade. I think it was the third grade. And she had this really very conscious teacher. She was I really, really admired her. She was a very conscious teacher. She was very caring about her children. And this particular year, there was some fund issues at the school. And what happened was that they cut off all the slow learning classes. They just shut those down, and they put all children, slow learners and gifted children, together in one classroom at the same hour. And so they were learning in the mixed groups. And so teachers felt they had a little bit more burden, because now they had to have two curriculums potentially for the smart children and another curriculum for the not so smart children, the special children. And so a mother, beautiful mother, with her very handsome, very well put together young boy, come to talk to the teacher after school hours, and she's practically in tears, saying, "My son, he can't come." And she's holding him and caressing him and loving him. And she's saying, "My son, he's not smart. He can't do this class with you. He's going to fail because he's not smart." And she kept saying this over and over in front of him. The little boy was just wide open eyes. I mean, like soaking everything in. And the teacher looks at me. She and I had a good relationship. And I said, "Can I take your son out to play with my daughter for a few moments?" And so I took the child out. And outside, I was honoring him and telling him a lot more positive things than that. And that he was going to do really good, that he just one step at a time, one word at a time, one day at a time. And he was going to see how he was going to make great advancements with the rest of the group and that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, of course, the teacher was comforting her, the mother, and instructing her as to what she was hoping that she would do with her son, and not to say these kinds of things in front of him. Anyways, long story short, the children all pulled together beautifully, and even the slow learners excelled in their school performance, and they did remarkably well. I remember reading a study that was done many, many, many years ago, how they had two teachers very much in this way. The ones that always taught the gifted children, the ones who always taught the slow learners. And before the school year, without telling the teachers, it was the research, they switched the teachers or the students to the teachers. And the teacher who always taught the smart students, let me see, how was it? Oh yeah, they switched the students. The slow learners went with the teacher who always taught the gifted children, and the gifted children always went to the teacher that always taught the slow learners. But they were told, "Oh my God, they told the teacher for the gifted children, oh my God, you've got the best of the children this year. I mean, they're all so remarkable. You're going to be so impressed with their learning styles. These kids we were just so thrilled that you got this great class of students." And then they told the other teacher, who usually taught the slow learners, goes, "Oh my God, we feel so badly for you, because these kids really are tough. They're not gonna, they're tough learners. Just let us know how we can help." Well, that being said, at the end of the research project, they found out that the slow learning students with a teacher who thought that they were exceptional students did exceptionally well. And the gifted children who were the teacher who thought they were slow learners did exceptionally poor. So again, a lot of our expectations, and we talk a lot about expectations in Silva, really need to be brought into practice here. But I think it does help to be a good listener in order then to know what to respond that will best help your child, and choose your words wisely when it comes to working with your children. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And also pause before you respond. Think of your answers. Your answers are going to be really important. So it really takes sometimes to have a little bit of more thought than just reacting to your child's needs or what's going on. It's best to respond to what's going on and be a very conscious observer along the way. And have responses that will engage conversation when you are having a dialogue with your child. You might want to say things like, wow, that's amazing. Tell me more. And then listen to what happens or what the child's going to be telling you, so the child can feel comfortable engaging in conversation with you. And that way you can be a good listener, and that way you can be also a good responder and be very impeccable with your word. Number 3 is to, again, positive thinking. It ties in with being impeccable with your word. It's another facet of that. Positive thinking equals positive speech equals positive words. If you focus on always speaking positively, proactively, optimistically, it at least it brings that hope and that inspiration into your child as well, that things can be done. Yes, you want maybe to have some realism into the picture, but you don't want to be always like a rosy-eyed positive, say, oh yeah, no matter what happens, everything's gonna be okay. No, that's there's way things out. There's some positive sides to it, maybe not so positive sides. How do we evaluate this? But yet your vision, your move is always going to be proactive, optimistic, and more positive. Although I have a really good friend of mine, Mark Wallman, and he says, and so he's a researcher and neuroscientist, he'll say that positive thinking, positive attitudes, even rosy-eyed positive attitudes or positivity is better than maybe realistic positivity. So you need to kind of weigh that out. But the words that you use are one of the most powerful tools that you have as a human being. I mean, they really are powerful. They carry energy. They're very impactful. Again, Don Miguel Ruiz says, it is a tool of magic. But like a sword with 2 edges, your words can create the most beautiful dream, or they can destroy everything around you. Think of how the words you choose to use affect your children. A child's mind is like fertile soil where seeds are continually being planted. The seeds are opinion, ideas, beliefs, concepts. I mean, all these things, you can look at them as seeds that are being planted very deep into your child's subconscious. You plant a seed and it grows deep roots. And as a child grows into adulthood, these roots get deeper and deeper. And sure enough, these become the patterns and the programs in your deep into your subconscious that run your life. So we want to be a little bit more aware of that. And when I was, looking through all these different things to offer you for today's talk or today's webinar, I ran across a young woman, she appears to be, Lori Petro from teachthroughlove.com. And she offers a free webinar that I think is really, really a good webinar on conscious communication. And she talks about the need to shift from some basic positions, like from judging our children to observing our children, for example. It's a good, I really recommend this webinar, Lori Petro, but you'll get these notes anyway. And it's called teachthroughlove.com. And so instead of like judging all the time, oh, you're always so lazy and you're so messy and you're always kind of like judging them, just, make more of, think about how to approach that more from an observation perspective. I notice your room is a little bit messy. I think we need to pick it up, or I think it's, let's make it time now, or let's set aside some time now to do this homework, before it gets a little bit too late, and just kind of encourage them by what you observe in them as to how to coach them, how to motivate them along the way. She said it's important to move from blaming to then focusing on our feelings And that's going to be a lot more important instead of blaming, you see what you did? You just made a mess. It's all your fault. And a lot of times we just say things like this just because we are reactive. We're not being very mindful of what's going on. So let's focus more on what we're feeling and what they're feeling, so we can say the right things based on what we're observing has just happened. She talks about moving away from guilt and instead expressing needs. Instead of saying, well, if you're going to, this kind of behavior, you keep behaving like this, you make me crash or wreck, or you keep doing this, you're going to make me go outside and say something to those people over there, or whatever it is, bringing guilt into the picture. And instead of saying, honey, if you just come, I need for you to calm down right now and stay still because I'm driving. Instead of saying, well, if you keep acting that way, I'm going to get into an accident and we're all going to get hurt, kind of thing. It's a big difference as to how you're going to respond to a situation where you're not going to make a child feel guilty, but you're expressing, these are the needs right now. I need you to be quiet or calm down. I need you to put on your seatbelt. And driving is very important, and we need to drive safely. And so just kind of offer that. She talks about moving away from shame and making maybe too great of moving away from shame and more instead adding clarity and making your requests known. So instead of shaming someone, or especially your child, then make sure that you ask for more clarity as to what is going on, so that then you can respond more effectively, of course, with your word. And to move away from fear and give quality feedback without creating that fear. So I think these are very good ways for us to look into how to use our word, make our word impeccable, and be the example to our children that will help mold a child moving forward. Number 4 is to follow through. Follow through is really important. I mean, this really ties in with positive discipline. And if you say something, you need to mean it. And if you mean it, then you need to follow through. I know sometimes people call that tough love, but children need to have some kind of structure of some kind. I mean, they can't just be allowed to do whatever they want. Permissiveness is not the way to help children develop any valuable social skill or life skill. So permissiveness, I don't believe, is the answer. I think sometimes when you give them direction, structure, you mentor them, you guide them along the way, that's where you're going to find that they're able then to really develop then good social skills and life skills. Children know when you mean what you say and when you don't. I mean, they're masters at picking these things up, and you know that. Children's self-worth comes from doing things for themselves and feeling great about it. And so we want to be able to do this, help children to experience achievements and feel great about themselves. That builds self-esteem and self-image, good self-image and confidence along the way. But you've got to follow through. I remember when Ileana was around maybe 2. Again, they call it terrible twos. Okay, if that's not expectation in a statement, I mean, what is? I mean, oh, terrible twos. Yeah, that's a terrible twos. And of course, you expect the terrible things to happen, or, lack of maybe a little discipline for your children or whatever. And during that time, I was, just like, okay, now what am I going to do here to help tone this child down a little bit? Because although she's so meek and calm and very humble as an adult, as a child was a whole different story. And I had her and a little baby. I had a baby of about 6 months old as well during that time. So talking to some friends of mine who are psychologists, they directed me to parent effectiveness training, a couple of books that I read when they were children, growing up, and then when they were teenagers. And I think the biggest takeaway, and I really enjoyed that book. I think I recommend it to everyone, Parent Effectiveness Training. But my biggest takeaway is say what you mean what you say, and follow through. There was times that I would say, we're going to go to the grocery store. And she used to like really misbehave at grocery stores and want everything and scream and holler. And I would always try to quiet her down, and maybe sometimes give in to her just to keep her happy. But that wasn't working, obviously. So I learned to tell her, we're going to go to the grocery store. And when we're at the grocery store, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time. We're going to buy some things for the house, and you're going to sit in your car and tell her exactly what to do. You're going to behave and help me to do the grocery shopping during the time that we're there. And if you act any other way, then I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to bring you back home. And I'm going to go grocery shopping without you. So I would tell her the whole scenario beforehand. And sure enough, one time she started acting up and making a scene, the whole thing. And I stopped everything. It wasn't convenient for me, but I stopped everything, pulled her out of the seat, put her back into the car. We went home, dropped her off with, at that time we had a Nana who was helping us. And I said, I'll be right back. And she was screaming and hollering. I said, no. I said, remember, I said, that if you acted differently, I would bring you home. And it really, it was very painful for me to leave her and see her crying, but it did. But it only happened one time. Okay, I think I got it. So you really need to follow through. And it was really wonderful that my husband and I were on the same page. So he and I always followed through, and we had each other's back when it came to working with our children. I read of an example when you say, I'll read a story at 8 o'clock after pajamas are on and the teeth are brushed, and your child isn't ready by 8, kindly point out the time, put the child to bed without reading, and be encouraging by saying, we can try this again tomorrow. And then leave it at that. But the child is going to recognize there are consequences by not doing what is expected of a child, and you must follow through as a parent. And that brings you to encouragement. Encouragement is actually more effective than praise in building a child's self-confidence. So praise usually focuses on what the adult thinks or feels, and often includes a judgment as good or bad. And praise statements, start usually with things like, well, I want you to do this, or I'd like to, and it kind of sends that subtle message that the adult's opinion is what is important. I really want you to do this, and whatever. And so, and then things sometimes we'll say things like, you're such a nice child. Oh, you silly girl. Or, I keep hearing, a lot of statements. I'm very aware when people talk to their children, or I love your drawing, or I was so proud of you for cleaning up. These are all examples of praise. And it may sound that it's effective, but children who are praised to do things to please others, to please their parents, later on to please other children, to please the teachers, people in their relationships, but not because they are motivated themselves. They just want to please others because it brings a good feeling inside them. Encouragement, on the other hand, is non-judgmental. Encouraging statements point out specific facts, but don't evaluate those facts. Phrases like, you really work hard, or look at all the green you use in this beautiful painting of yours, or I bet you're proud that you finished the whole puzzle, or gosh, look how the big words you're writing today. Those are really, things along those lines. I mean, they kind of are examples of not being judgmental, but still encouraging along the way, or encourage the child along the way. So children who are encouraged tend to develop a stronger self-motivation and pride in their work, because the encouragement focuses on what they're doing well, not what the parent or teacher thinks about their work. So when you look at the child's work and you say, wow, this is really good work you did here. It's very clean, it's neat, it's done, it's put together very nicely. It's good stuff, It's better to say, oh gosh, it's so pretty painting. I think it's so pretty and beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's a different approach. I know it's subtle and it's not always easy to catch, but the more you practice these kinds of things, the better you get at it. You're going to get better and better at this through time, and it becomes easier and easier, and a very natural way of how you think and how you respond effectively to your children. Encouragement typically focuses on again, on the good work that is being done, the efforts that children put in what they're doing. I think that's what we want to do. Focus on the efforts that children are doing. So here's some things that you might, find that can help. Encouragement focuses on effort. Parents, teachers who encourage children point out on how hard they have worked or how much they have improved. This helps children's pride or have pride in their own work. Encouragement sets up children for success. So if Mike is learning to read, for example, and here's a teacher say, or maybe you say to one of the other siblings, that Sarah is a good reader, that's an example of praise. Then Mike might conclude that he'll never be a good reader like Sarah. And if the teacher tells Sarah that she's reading bigger words now, that's an example of encouragement, then Mike doesn't have any reason to believe that he can't also read bigger words. So there's a little subtle distinction there, but I think it's one worth noting and one worth, just kind of like thinking about a little bit more, especially when you get the notes that we'll send you, okay? So encouragement teaches children to evaluate themselves on their own merits. When adults provide children with feedback about what they're doing, the children can learn to evaluate themselves without comparing their efforts and successes to those of others. Children who are encouraged learn what they think about. Learn what they think about themselves is more important than what other people think about them. So I think it's important for us to make that distinction, because that's going to show that a child has a lot of confidence. A child builds more and more confidence with themselves because they know that they're putting good effort in the work that they're doing and that they're doing their best job through time. And it's really important, I think, that we also encourage children that getting better is something that happens through time, whether it's better in sports, better in reading, better in arithmetic, better in whatever. It's staying the course, sticking to it, and building that character, as Aristotle would say, but by example from you. And so I think it's really important that we do that. Future pacing is also something else that we want to do. That's number 6. Future pacing allows your child to you give your child the tools for them to envision their actions in motion, basically. If I do this, then this is going to happen. And then after this, then what's going to happen? That if I don't do my homework, then I'm going to go to school. I'm not going to make the grade. I'm going to maybe get a poor grade in my test, or maybe even fail my test. And then I'm going to get, the next thing will be, I'm going to get maybe some consequences. Maybe I might get punished, or I may get disciplined, or I will have to retake the test, or I'll have to stay after school, or I might not pass to the next grade. And these are consequences that will happen from this behavior of not doing your homework or taking time to study. Whereas on the other hand, if I do my studies and I do my homework and I take my homework in and it's well done and I get a good grade, then I'm more prepared for my test and I get a good grade for that. I'm going to feel really good for getting a good grade. So then I can get a good grade in this subject or at the end of the school year, and that's encouraging. So this kind of future pacing can be really beneficial pattern of thinking and of moving your awareness of your child, moving their awareness to see consequences or outcomes that can occur depending on one action or the other. It's taking your child into the future so they can mentally experience what's going to happen next time that they're in that specific situation. It engages imagery and is a powerful way to lock in and anchor changes and resources to future situations and or any kind of particular event. And if, for example, you wanted your child into sports, then the child might get more engaged in the sports activity and picture themselves, hitting the ball really great and making that run and, just getting to base or whatever it might be. Or maybe it's in dance for your child who maybe likes dancing, and to really lock in or imagine the experience as they wish it to be, lock in that resource of confidence, of good achievements, and then be able to access that resource later on. It's also something that can be done with future pacing. in future pacing, it tells you if in the future, as you're pacing yourself into the future, if that experience is going to be effective. Because if the imagined future situation feels good and creates a positive internal experience, then you're going to know that. When you're guiding your child into this whole experience where they're future pacing, they do it with their eyes closed, preferably, and they're picturing themselves doing great as they dance and everything is so good, their face will show it. Or they hit the ball and they're like, yeah, I'm ready to first base. Yeah, I did it. And their whole body language is showing it, then you'll know it. So it's a very effective way for you to calibrate or to observe how engaged they are into the experience. If you have them picture, well, I don't do my homework, and then I make the bad grade, and then I don't pass my test, and then I have a bad report card, and then I feel badly about myself, all that shows in their face as well. So it's a really good practice for you to help your child learn how to future pace, because they're not equipped mentally to do it on their own. So if you start teaching them that these behaviors will have consequences, lead to something else, then it's going to make a big difference. It also helps to expose unintended consequences or a belief that may be there, a doubt or fear. Maybe they're in the experience, they say, well, Timo, but I'm not sure if I can do it. Okay, well, what do we need to do for you to feel more confident then? So it may show you where they feel doubt or where they feel less than capable, or maybe the demand is too big on them, or their self-talk is working against them. So when you're doing this kind of exercise together, it's a really great way to not only bond with your child, but to give your child a tool that they can utilize to do better and access their resources. And it helps to build credibility in your child's mind. If your child can observe him or herself doing these experiences or doing these things, having these achievements, whether it's going to be making good grades, having, good test results, being able to do great in sports or dance or whatever they're doing that they really enjoy, then they experience themselves over and over and over again. It not only teaches the body, brain, and mind how to achieve that outcome, but it makes it more credible for them and in their ability to achieve these outcomes successfully. So this is in part engaging the role-playing ability that a child has to be able to role-play success and achievements along the way. And future pacing acts like a post-hypnotic suggestion, because you're able to insert these experiences at a very ideal state of mind, that when they're actually doing it, they just kick in. And so they kick in effectively because they've already role played it so much. They've already future paced it. They've already experienced it. They've already observed it. They already have felt it within themselves. And so then what all that has to happen is them to be in the situation, and then it just kicks off by itself. So it's kind of cool thing to do. And always, it's the last thing to do. Set goals. Help your child know how to set a goal. Setting goals helps a child to feel more in control, and that's important for a child to feel like they can have a better sense of control as to what's going to happen in their future. And to have that vision of a future is something that's really important for all people, children especially. How many children do not get to live long or they commit suicide or because they have no vision of a better tomorrow or happier tomorrow, more maybe love-filled tomorrow. So if you have that vision, if you're constantly setting a vision and helping your children set visions through the goals that they set of their future, then it's really going to play a role in their happiness and in their confidence and in their hope for a better tomorrow. So regular and careful goal setting can help children feel that they are taking control of their own behavior and working towards something that is desirable to them, that will have a positive impact in their life. And no matter how small the achievement of a goal may be, it's going to have great value. So make sure your goals are kind of realistic. Don't set goals that are way out of bounds, because that's going to be sabotaging and it's going to work against them. So it doesn't have to be a big goal. Start with really small goals and start working up, along the way, but set goals that they can reach. In the beginning, it's going to be really important. And you can always push yourself a little bit more. Make a goal simple. Although it's important for adults to commit to an end date sometimes, because I really encourage you to say, okay, by this time I will have achieved this outcome. Because as an adult, it's important for you to commit. For young children, they don't have a real clear concept of time the same way we have as adults. It may be more effective to set a simple goal, which can be like checked off at the end of the day, before they go to sleep at night. Got my homework done? Yeah. I did a drawing that I really liked that I was working on. Yeah. I cleaned up my room before I went to sleep. Sure. Fine. Good. I got everything ready for tomorrow before bedtime. Check. Those are good goals to set. And then something that maybe they're dreaming of, maybe a new bike or a new toy, a new whatever that you're going to get them, but you can have them set it as a goal and think about it positively every day. Having them imagine that they're already playing with that new game, or where they're already riding their new bike, or things like that, until the time comes that you're able to bring it forth. And avoid obstacles. If your child has decided that they want to read a book a week, but you know that they spend most of their time watching TV instead, then point it out to them and make sure that they go back to reinforcing the goal that they set. It might mean that they have to set aside some time or whatever, but make sure that they don't create obstacles to achieving those goals, and that you help them to eliminate those obstacles along the way, and to observe that obstacles are self-imposed sometimes, or self-created. Sometimes they come from outside, but you can manage them, roll around them, move around them, and that's always a good thing to do. And also, it's also probably wise to have short, medium, long-term goals that a child may want to set, because that way you're able to always move forward and create that map of life, and always take advantages of opportunities. When a child starts a sentence with "I wish I could" or "I wish I had," bam, take advantage of it and use it as a good time to set goals with your child and work towards achieving those goals. So encourage them and work along the way with them, and make sure that your child chooses goals that are meant for them, not your goals, that they're their goals. And be flexible on the way. Sometimes goals will happen, sometimes they don't, and sometimes you're going to help them happen, okay? But the whole idea is to practice these goal-setting routines, and to be able to establish the pattern that needs to be impressed in your subconscious in order to make all these things possible. So just remember, just be the example is probably going to be one of the most important things that you can do. Be impeccable with your word is going to be really, really important as well, because you want to be sure that your word, because it carries so much power, is going to have the effect you want it to have. Positive always in your thinking and your speech and your intentions, your expectations, your beliefs, have to be positive anyway. And practice that mental house cleaning. Follow through, always follow through. If you say something, mean it. If you mean it, then do it. And if you're going to do it, you have to follow through all the time. Encourage your child to with their efforts that they're putting into the work that they do, whether it's at school or at home or in art or in dance, it doesn't matter. Future pace, make sure that they have that pattern, that they instill a pattern that they can literally observe what is going to happen based on behaviors today, what can happen tomorrow, and how is that going to play a role in their self-confidence, because that's going to add accountability. And accountability probably should be another principle, but accountability is going to be really important for them to be accountable for their actions, their behaviors, and their outcomes for their life, the life that they create along the way. And finally, of course, is to always have them set goals that they can achieve, and goals that will help them through time stretch their abilities to become greater, bigger, more in every way, in a very positive way. I know it's a lot of information. I know we've run out of time, and I really do hope that those of you who are here, who are looking into conscious parenting, and maybe for some of you it's a new thought, and for others it might be something that really more important role in your life. I hope so. But do look into it some more. You'll get the PDF together with the replay tomorrow, and we'll do our best to transcribe it as close as possible. And do look up, a little bit more. There's a lot of really great resources that can offer you a lot of great ideas is to conscious parenting. I think Lori Petro is one of the ones that I enjoyed the most. And I think you'll find her webinar to be really valuable. So I think you'll enjoy that. You've got the link and that PDF you'll get tomorrow. And I really am so grateful that you are here with me to get today. And if you want to continue on this topic, we will have a workshop coming up on the 28th and 29th, I believe, right before I take off to Venice. And basically those topics have to do with discovering your child's potential, so they do what they love and love what they do, how to guide your children to meditation, learning with the mental movie screen, how to learn better. And this really will be good for you as parents as well, and you as individuals. These same tools you will benefit from. So you'll learn the memory pegs, method of loci, and how to use the 3 figures for remembering information, test taking, accessing resources, things of that type, how to deal with adversity. And again, we'll cover a lot more information on future pacing. Okay, guys, I know I took you overboard a little bit, and I'm really grateful that you were here with me. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time, your energy, your input, all your wonderful things. And, I love you guys. So hopefully I'll see you the next time around for the workshop on empowering your child. I would say on empowering you. All right. Talk to you soon. See you again. Bye.